CKA. This is Cars, Stars, and everything in between. He is the star, Richard Bazzi, Schultz Ford, schultzford.com. I'm Bubba from 100.7 Star. And our star with us today is Bobby Mesmer. Now, listen, I'm going to try to read this because I'm not that smart. Bobby, I've been reading about you for 2 days. Okay, you're the CEO of RMG Erectors and Construction LLC, which is the world's largest pre-engineered metal building erector company. You're an entrepreneur, but you also have you're the CEO of Iron Will Racing LLC, which is a professional prototype race team, and RMG Luxury Services, which is a new startup providing black car, SUV, and luxury jet services. What don't you do?
I don't know. I just listen, man. I want to take over the world one step at a time, right?
Wait a minute. And that is exactly why I agreed to have you on the show today. Exactly. Because that's me. That is, I agree with that 1,000,000%. I love it. So when they first came to me, when Chelsea first came to me and said, you know, hey, I have a guest, Bobby Mesmer. And I said, who? And she said, Bobby Mesmer. And I said, but why would anybody be interested in Bobby Mesmer? And then I read.
Oh, yeah.
Then I continued to read. And then I said, HFS, this guy, we need to help him tell his story across the world. Because, you know, Bobby, there's so many things in here that Bubba mentioned, some of them, but they don't really show how you got to these points. And through adversity comes success, they say, right? And you've certainly had your share of adversity.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I mean, listen, being in business, as I'm sure you know, adversity is a piece of it. You got to take the risk in order to succeed. I mean, that's just normal way of life.
I mean, you learn from that, right? Isn't that what you've learned? Is you've learned from it. It's something that is a part of growth. But more interesting to me is everything. Like you said, you want to take over the world, but it seems like you are. And that means all the different ventures you're involved with. But what were the early struggles that you had, Bobby, and how did you overcome them?
Well, you know, some of the early struggles were, you know, starting in business 24 years ago. You know, you're trying to grow the business. I'm in a very high risk tolerant business, being in the construction industry. So when you try to grow, you go to some banks and you're like, hey, can I get a credit line so I can afford payroll? Can I do this so I can grow? And they don't want to give it to you. You know, everybody turns their back against you because you're too small. You know, it's too heavy of a risk. So that's, you know, that was the start of it. So then you start bootstrapping the company, which I did. Super proud of the fact that we took our company and you know, we're at a $4 billion valuation right now in our company. And can I interrupt you just for 1 second and say, because as Bubba said, there's so many business ventures we're talking about. Which one are you specifically talking about right now? RMG Erectors. Yeah, RMG Erectors is the building. Yeah, it's the steel building side of it. That's our, you know, that's our big company. That's our backbone. That's where this all started. And you know, but and again, you know, so that risk that we continue to take, and then in 2015 we took a major hit. You know, I mean, I love to talk about that because I love to give everybody experience to that. You know, what that experience looks like. And you know, we took you know, it ended up being a $3.5, almost $4 million hit that we took. That would put anybody under, you know, and out of business. It didn't do that to us. We pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. We really reevaluated the company, and from 2015 to now, I said, I'm going full blast. I'm going out with this, and I'm going to go take over the world. I want more. And so we did that. And here we are from, you know, in a matter of 9 years, the largest pre-engineered erector in the world at this point.
Bobby, how many times in your career has somebody told you no?
Every single day of my life.
Yeah.
Every day of my life.
And how many times did the word no stop you from trying to achieve your goal in business?
Never once, you know, because I take the word no as a challenge. You're going to tell me no, I'm going to do it anyway. Because if you told me no because you knew better and I didn't succeed in what I was doing, then I'm going to go and I'm going to and I'm going to learn from that mistake and understand why you told me no. And then I'm going to reevaluate my position. I'm going to analyze it and I'm going to move it forward. And that's what we continue to do.
So the steel building is that like a pole building kind of thing?
It's kind of like it's a steel so steel buildings, pre-engineered steel buildings, similar to a pole building, but all steel. So instead of the wood, we have the steel. So like you see the Dollar Generals popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
They're pre-engineered steel buildings. That's one of our national accounts. At our high point, we were erecting 300 of them a year across the country.
Wait. Your buildings are the buildings that are Dollar Generals?
Yes, sir.
Because you may not be taking over the world, but Dollar General definitely is trying.
Well, and listen, I'll ride their coattails all day long.
and their business model is amazing. Once they hit a certain sales per building, they open another one up 3 miles away. Like their business model is beyond scope. I've read all about their business model and it blows me away.
Yeah. Well, and their business model was good because what they said was, we want to go into these small towns. We want to become the general store again. We're not just a dollar store. We want to become the general store. They're bringing the general store back to these towns that people got to drive 15, 20 minutes away to get something. And so what we did was we piggybacked on them and we started erecting all their buildings. And now it's the Family Dollars, it's the O'Reilly Auto Parts, it's the Tractor Supplies. So all those big national accounts. And then it's big airplane hangars, warehouses, retail centers. Car dealerships.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Have you done car dealers?
We do tremendous amount of car dealers. So if you need one, let me know. I can come.
I need one actually right across the street from me.
Well, then we need to sit down and talk.
Yeah, we definitely do. But the steel. So you went on though. You continue to grow in other industries.
Yeah, so it's about diversification, right? Like, I'm an opportunist. I'm not ashamed to say it. And I see opportunity and I look at things and I say, like, well, I can do that. Right. So, and you look at opportunities where people fail. So, I've owned a couple other businesses that we sold. I owned a distribution company that I sold back in 2008, opened that up as an opportunity, sold it to a big conglomerate company back in 2008. I had another company, which was a franchise business that we just sold in 2021. Again, opportunity to be able to get involved into something like that business. And then now you talk about extending into, the race team and then the luxury service business. The luxury service business came out of necessity. How many times have you used a black car service company or limousine company who's left you stranded, didn't pick you up at the airport, didn't do what they said they were going to do, charged you too much money? And that's what happened to me. And I turned around and I looked at it and I'm like, I could go buy a few black cars and start this up. And that's what we did. And we start running down the road with it and poof, here we are. All of a sudden we're in business. So it's a matter of opportunity and taking that opportunity to do it differently. And that's what we continue to look at. So for me, I'm a disruptor. I like to disrupt shit. I like to make people, very, very, I like to make people very, in the industry, very uncomfortable, because here I come and I'm going to change the way the business is done.
And I love that. And, Steve Jobs said, people who think they can change the world, crazy enough to think they can change the world, are the ones that do. Right.
Absolutely.
And so that's actually a fact. But interesting, it's the black car service and the jet thing is interesting to me also. I have a Lincoln dealership, and really it's all about their concierge service and black car service and everything, taking that experiential level to another level. And so I think you're playing right into the right time for that. But how do you compete with the jet services? How do you do that? Is it like NetJets?
Yeah, well, so when we come back, he'll be able to answer that question. Bobby Mesmer is our guest today for Cars, Stars, and Everything in Between. Absolutely unbelievable conversations. More when we return on 100.1 FM, AM 1020, KDKA. That was a quick 9 minutes.
Yeah, that was quick.
It was a quick 9 minutes. Yeah, it goes by fast, huh?
Bobby, do you have somebody who's your right-hand person?
I do. I have a couple. Yeah. So I have two executive assistants. One is here in my Tennessee office, which is where I'm at. I have another executive assistant who's the general manager and up in my New Jersey office. And then I have a vice president of operations who is kind of my right hand from an operational standpoint. And then for the field side of the business, I have a director of field operations. So yeah, I have a multitude of people that fall in line.
That's great.
Yeah, it's
here we go. All right, 100.1 FM, AM 1020, KDK. This is Cars, Stars, and Everything in Between. He's the star, Richard Bazzi, Schultz Ford, schultzford.com. I'm Bubba from 100.7 Star. and unbelievably interesting. Bobby Mesmer, the list of accomplishments with your business are amazing. But Richard, when we last left, you were talking about the jet service that Bobby has started. So if you want to answer that question now, that'd be great.
Yeah, the jet service started out as a necessity, right? Like as a company, we're a national company. We have multiple offices throughout the United States. We just opened up an office in Costa Rica. So it started out as a necessity. We need to get around. I need to get to my customers. I need to be accessible. And so it started out like, all right, well, let me, we're going to buy a corporate jet, buy it, not lease it, buy it for the company, own it, operate it, and go about that. And then it leads into, well, how can we monopolize on that? If we own this thing, how do we, I'm always looking at the, again, opportunity. So how do you monopolize on something like that and say, well, I own a jet, on its downtime, can I make extra money? And so you start looking at those operations and you start moving it into that. And then you look at what other people are selling jet services for, and it's astronomical. If you've ever looked at a jet, a jet leasing fee to fly from, I don't know, New York to Miami, it's unbelievably insane. And so it doesn't cost them nearly that. And look, everybody's got to make money, but like, let's do it for more affordable. Let's focus on, stop trying to hit the home runs and focus on the volume of work and keep the thing moving and let it get paid for. And that's what we did. So, we're in tune to buy another jet before the end of this year. We're buying a bigger one, and we're going to just keep adding on to that and providing that service out there to people that have the ability and have that necessity to want to get around in the private sector market.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. The demand for that is pretty great. I ventured into that area myself, and I found the demand is unbelievable. And the plane never sits; it's moving all the time. I always find it interesting to go on FlightAware and just kind of track it and see wherever it is and how many stops it makes. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, and it's neat to see, but it also goes back to, like you said, the demand. And why is there a demand for it? Because the commercial airfare is horrendous.
It's horrible. It's just horrible.
The customer service is horrendous. The people that work it are horrendous. It's such a miserable experience, and so you wonder why people are going private and wanting to spend that kind of money. So let's figure out how we can make a business around it.
Absolutely.
Bobby, I'm constantly amazed, and I study people like yourself that find a way to make money and are very wealthy, and through their business and through their hard work and through their efforts. What would you say was, if somebody sees where you are now and how successful you are now, give a very quick snapshot of how broke you became to get where you are, the brokest you were in this journey?
I was down to my last $8,000 at one point,
Wow.
not knowing how to get myself moving. And I had to figure out how to take the $8,000 that I had, after being successful and having money, down to your $8,000. And that was in 2015. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
So wait a second. So we're talking about less than 10 years ago. You had you were down to $8,000. And if this doesn't work, this was it.
Had no idea what I was doing. Yep. So I took the risk. We took the $8,000. I invested it into what I needed to do. Went out there. I put my boots on. I put together my guys, and we went out there and we did it. And that was it. $8,000. And now, again, 9 years later, we're a multi-billion-dollar valuation company.
I love it. I am so infatuated with these kinds of stories. Yes.
Yeah, it's the American dream. All you got to do is work, everybody. That's it. You got to, you put yourself to it, put your mind to it, stop listening to the people that are going to tell you no, and get out there and just do it. Figure it out.
Absolutely. And Bobby, I always say also that the harder you work, the luckier you get, because there is no substitute for hard work. I have similar background and story. I won't bore you with it, but it's similar. My motivator always is fear. People say you can't be motivated by fear. And I say, I believe I can, because it's the fear of failure that I just can't do it. I mean, I can remember some pretty dark times. And when I came to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I had $10,000 and that was it. And man, like you, I had no idea where to go from there. But I never wanted to even think about it. So I put it out of my mind and just pushed forward. But it's a fun journey. The one thing that I saw you said was you do it, you create a culture because you say it's because my name's on the building. My name is on that door and you represent me. And that's how you get that culture pushed down to all the other layers. And you do that. And I commend you for that because your basics, man, I can tell just talking to you, you're block and tackle and just put your head down and go. And I love that. And does that basically describe you, do you think?
It does. It does. And you know, going back to what you said about fear, I'll tell you a secret. And I said this, I was on stage talking not that long ago in Philadelphia, and somebody asked that same question. And I will tell you, I'm afraid every day. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, I can't lie to everybody. You know, I'm a big, tough guy. I'm a, you know, 6'4", 290 pound, you know, guy. But at the end of the day, I'm afraid every day. And I'm afraid because I know that I have hundreds of people that depend on the decisions I make every day.
Yep.
They depend on me to get up and do what I'm doing every day. And that's the key. And yes, and so Richard, to your point, yes, it does describe me. It's, you know, I get in it. I'm fingers on the pulse every day. And I look to treat my people as best as I can to allow them to trust me in the decisions I make, to follow me as a leader, because I'm only as good as them. And I want them to be the best that they can be. And I need them to be the best that they can be for the company. And that's being as good as they can be for themselves. And that's where it starts. And that's the culture that I bring. Be as good as you could be for yourself. That makes you the best for the company. And then we all do extremely well.
And also, I think, and you probably, I'm going to bet you agree with this. If somebody within your organization has failed, then you take that personal as you failed. And that's
Absolutely.
me. And I do the same thing. You know, failure is, I always internalize that. And I look at what I've done or could do better and what I should have done. And I do that. And that's a very hard thing to do because it requires a lot of introspection. And man, I love talking to you. I really do. I think you've got a great story, and a $4 billion company, man. That's a pretty strong growth.
Yeah,
from $8,000 9 years ago. I agree.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
and that's
thanks.
that's why when I said, "Who's Bobby Mesmer?" and after I read all this and started to understand who you were, it was like it's so compelling. We have to tell this story because it's like who's the greatest entrepreneur of the world, they say. I don't remember what his name is, but yes, these are the stories that motivate everybody. They keep us all thinking about how to get better, how to create, and never give up. And I think that's what you bring to this whole equation. Go back to the race cars now. Tell me how involved you are in racing.
So I was a driver for 20 years. I was very, very involved through all multitude of levels of the racing world. From
what did you drive, Bobby? What did you drive?
So I drove everything from Porsches to LMP2, LMP3 prototypes. I was in the Trans Am series, so running stock cars in the Trans Am series, and then eventually moved up into owning my own prototype team of MPO1 prototypes. And we did really well. We ran.
I don't know what that is. Is that open wheel?
No, it's actually, so it's a full body car. It's a fiberglass body, roll cage, purpose built, you know, a very purpose built car. Prototype cars are like what you see in IMSA. They're like the LMP2, LMP3 to DT type cars, high downforce cars. So they're very, very quick, very, you know, very, very adamant to the point of in their turns. And I just loved them. And we, you know, I took, 2021, I took second place in the national championships, took first place in the East Coast Championship, you know, series. 2022, we took second place in the national championship race again, first place overall in the East Coast Series Championship. And in 23, I ended up retiring due to some health issues. And, you know, so we closed up the team, and, you know, so we're kind of putting that behind me now, but it's still a piece of my life. It's something that I thoroughly enjoyed. I did a lot with tire testing and suspension testing and car setup. I'm an engineer by trade, so I have that mindset to be able to get in a car and be able to get out of it and say, here's the problem. Here's what we need to do on this particular track. We need to change this for this. And, you know, so I was very involved in it for a lot of years, loved it. Very, very competitive, very gentleman. You know, you meet all sorts of really good people, and, but it was a lot of fun, man. I mean, racing, you can't take anything away from a racing world.
Bobby,
So
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bubba. Go. No, please go ahead.
Well, Bobby, if people want to find out more about you beyond what we were able to talk about with you today, how can they read more about you, find out more about your businesses, and find more about you, because you are the engine that makes your businesses drive?
Yeah, you can visit. So we have an Instagram, Bobby Mesmer Official. You can visit that. We have RMG Erectors Instagram as well. There's also my website. You can go to bobbymesmer.com as well as rmgerectors.com. And you can pick up on all my stuff. All my articles are on there. You can read some of the articles that I write and I contribute to, and some of the other podcasts like this one, and you know, recordings that we do, and learn all about me. You can simply just Google me. As well.
Bobby, the most important question of the day. Ready?
Go ahead.
What kind of a car do you drive?
It depends on where I'm at. So right now, for Tennessee, I actually live in Tennessee right now. So in Tennessee, I have a Land Rover Defender that I just got, which is an urban wide body edition. So I have that.
Pretty car. That's nice. That's
yeah,
nice
it's
car.
a great car. Love it. In New Jersey, I have a Land Rover Range Rover, the P530. So I absolutely love that car. And it makes me feel like an old man because I'm getting older. You know what I mean? So love that car. And then I have a slew of classic cars. I'm a classic car collector. So you know,
classic,
so I have
going back how far? Like the 60s cars?
23 T-Bucket, a 1946 C-grade fire truck that we turned into a rat rod, a 1958 Chevy Bel Air with a 348 tri-power, 4-speed on the floor, 64 Impala SS. So yeah, 72 Charger with a 446 pack in it, a 78 Corvette Anniversary Edition. Yeah, so yeah, I go back to that era. I used to have the high-end luxuries, the Ferraris and all that, and I've kind of gotten out of that. That's, you know, and I'm more now going back to classic cars and collecting those.
So you have an anniversary Corvette?
I do. Yeah,
That's
1978.
Silver and gray, silver on the top, gray on the bottom.
This one's all black with the tan interior. It's got the 4-speed in it, and believe it or not, it's only got 32,000 original miles. Car's never been touched.
Boy, does that sound great. I'm so excited by it all. I love everything you do. I love everything you stand for. And I really appreciate you taking the time with us today, Bobby.
No, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Bobby Mesmer, thank you for joining us for Cars, Stars, and everything in between.
And I'm sorry.